Hello, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion here, going the RIA route, tools for the future. I'm joined by three very experienced executives in the advisor technology space. I'll just go down and name them real quickly. Ron Bullis, who's co-founder and president of Lifeworks Advisors. Bjorn Widerstedt, who's a VP and product management in the Black Diamond platform, which is also now part of SS&C Advent, which I've been here since the beginning when Black Diamond came out as a startup. So it's always interesting to see those things stacked on there. And Yaela Shamberg, co-founder and chief product officer at InvestCloud. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining me today. Cheers to hopefully having a lively discussion. I thought we'd start with a question. I wanted to ask you guys, what do each of you think are the three most important tools in the RIA toolkit? And you may, more than one of you may very well think all three are. If there's something a little more secondary to that, feel free to add it. Yaela, why don't we start with you? You popped up there on my screen first here. What do you think?
Yeah, when I think about the RIA toolkit, and thanks Davis for having me and hosting this today. It's always fun to do this, even from home. So when I think about the RIA toolkit, I think about not like one tool specifically, but themes of tools and what's important there. And the three that came to mind when I was talking about this is the ability for client customization or configuration. So a level of personalization and being able to treat your clients differently or kind of as individuals along their individual needs, but without having operational overhead and having to manually do so. So I think about an important toolkit for RIAs is to be able to treat their clients in ways of which they are, right? And not all clients are the same, just like not all RIAs are the same. I think the second category that I think about is engagement. So client engagement, tools that they're using, especially now, right? How are they interacting with them, both digitally, personally, ways of communicating, chat, video, seeing how they're using portals, logging in, co-browsing, seeing kind of become users. So what are the engagement tools that they have on their toolkit that they can use? And I think the last one is the tools that create efficiency in what they're doing. Things like proposal generation, being able to go through and have digital advice platforms where appropriate for clients, where you don't need to kind of manually create new portfolios and start over for each client. So those are the three buckets I think about when I think about the importance of a toolkit for them. Okay.
Bjorn, what about you?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And same here. Thanks, Davis, for having us today. I do think that if you're starting an RIA or you're trying to reinvent your technology stack, right? Picking tools that are equipped to mirror and reflect kind of the value proposition of what the advisory firm is all about, right? The brand, the way you talk to clients, the way you communicate, through and through. Picking technologies that on the client engagement side, to Yaela's point a little bit, right? That make the client feel special, right? And you're really kind of reinforcing that brand and reinforcing that the advisor has your back. We know you, we know what you're going through. This is what we set up in the relationship, and it's flowing through to all the technology tools, right? And then you want to make sure that experience is integrated into your middle or back office tools, right? I'm a firm believer that your internal collaboration tools should at minimum be talking to your external collaboration tools. Ideally, it's the same technology that handles everything, but that's not always possible. We know there's gaps in the space around that. But I think the technology should really be an extension of who the advisor is as a brand, as a firm, so that the client is feeling taken care of in that way.
Okay. And Ron, in what you're doing, I think you're rebuilding the technology stack from scratch. So I'm kind of curious what your answer to this question is going to be.
Yeah, so I think that as somebody who's started an RIA in the last couple of years and gotten to run this route of like reimagining a tech stack and building a client experience, I'm going to give some really specific answers here, because the short answer for me is either build it exactly as you need it, hire software engineers, create something custom for your business that it's completely integrated like what a robo might be, where they have this ecosystem. That's the path that I'm on. But if you're outside of that, I think what you have to do is you just have to get really clear about what your value proposition is to your clients. If your value proposition to your clients is more on the asset management, investment management side, then I think your first and most important choice is what is the tool, whether it's Black Diamond or Orion, just to mention either one of them, not getting paid for a commercial there, but what's the tool that's going to allow you to have the most effective platform from an asset management standpoint, a reporting standpoint, and a kind of performance monitoring and stuff like this. I would say that's number one. Number two in the toolkit, I think, is looking at your financial planning software. Again, I'm just stripping it down. If for anybody who's looked at like Kitsis's slide, where there's literally like 200 plus different software platforms and this kind of smorgasbord of technology, your asset management portfolio reporting software, I think, is your number one focus. Then number two is going to be your financial planning tools, whether you go eMoney, Right Capital, or something else, Money Guide Pro. And I think, again, that's personal preference and value proposition. And the third one for me is your communication platform. I see the world kind of divided into two camps. Those of us maybe like my firm that's adopted Google for everything from word processing to communications to texting to phones, or maybe kind of the Microsoft end. I think understanding how those three key tools are really, how you communicate, how you deliver intellectual property, and how you manage a client's wealth. Those would be the three things that I would say are the most important tools that an advisor or a firm leader needs to be focusing in on for their RIA.
Interesting. Okay. Well, it's kind of likely that some of this has been answered in what we were just talking about, but getting a bit more into specifics. What would you say are the fundamental ways you think the consequences of the pandemic have changed how advisors in the independent channel especially have worked? What have you guys been seeing from the advisors that you work with in this regard? And whoever wants to jump in, feel free, go right ahead.
I'll take a quick pass at it. I mean, for us, we were already running our firm more in a virtual setting because our clients are national. For us, it wasn't even about the advisor adoption as much as it was the clients, especially at the older age spectrums, now all of a sudden becoming very comfortable with Zoom meetings, FaceTime meetings, webinar style type of interactions. And that sped up for us as a firm the ability to communicate with more clients, whereas before we were still maybe limited to driving to a client, them coming to us, right? There was inefficiencies that were there. So I think, what I saw with advisors around the country when I was talking to them was an increased ability to actually get more work done, because the inefficiencies of going in between in-person meetings or driving or transporting across town or something like that were now all of a sudden done away with. We literally could go back-to-back meetings for an entire day. And I think there's also a danger there in that you run into these Zoom meeting fatigues, right? Where you wake up and you're like 10 hours of doing back-to-back meetings with no mental break. And it's something that has to be addressed. So that would be my input on that.
All right.
I would add just in terms of platforms. So we obviously have a robust digital platform with a lot of apps and in the wealth space as well. And I think what we've seen is some of the barriers to digitization that were there before, especially for certain advisor groups. Maybe demographics were a driver. Maybe it was kind of like the maturity of the client base or something, but a lot of advisors who were like, I don't need that. I connect with my clients this way. I have a relationship. I do this. And so I think where you had some organizations that really were pushing the digital journey, the digital transformation, and had internal friction or barriers, those have fallen away. So what we've seen is a massive acceleration for not only the need for tools, but the acceptance and the onboarding of those tools. And, in timelines just massively accelerated. So now people are coming and calling, raising their hand, and they're, I need it in 6 months. I need it yesterday, that kind of thing. So I think that's also been a big driver from the seat we're in terms of providing a platform and providing tools for the wealth space.
And your sort of all-in-one platform, White, for advisors that rolled out during the pandemic too. Has there been a big uptake in it, and a lot of calls for additional work on the tools that you guys did roll out specific?
There has been. I think like most businesses, we kind of braced ourselves for not only the unknown, but what does business look like with a dramatically reduced pipeline and things like that. And if anything, we exceeded our initial targets even pre-COVID. And so, I attribute it partly to, we had the white platform, which is kind of a full front, middle, back platform for wealth management and wealth advisors. So having the right products, but also, like I said, this acceleration where suddenly people were saying, I do need these tools. I want to take them out of the box as is. And then I want to start looking at my business. What do I need to customize? What do I need to configure? I think what you also saw was scale and technical vulnerabilities that companies have. Maybe some of the more mature, like Ron was saying, where they've built things themselves. And now they're concerned that they don't necessarily have the individuals or the resilience in their model to be able to support it and to grow and for it to scale. And so that's been another avenue where people kind of come and raise their hand and say, we need to start planning, because it's not disaster recovery, but life is full of more unknowns than we initially anticipated, and more has gone digital, more has to be operationalized. We have to do more with what we have.
Yeah, I would add to that real quick that I think a lot of firms and advisors probably realized very quickly what worked and what didn't work. And things that oftentimes work in person, even really good software that creates presentations or you can push it up on a TV screen, suddenly fell down or didn't have the same robust type of interactions that you now needed to have when you were in this digital environment communicating like this. So I think it also kind of was one of those events where the tide went out and you could clearly see software and tools that work across different channels, in person and digital, versus ones that are specific to in person or specific to digital. And I know we experienced some of that too. So.
Well, I know very early on with the market volatility that there was an awful lot of pressure on advisors to use their whatever rebalancing technology they had access to. And if they didn't and they were still just using spreadsheets, there was a lot of angst there. Well, Bjorn, I don't want to leave you out there, and feel free. I don't want you to limit, since you're mainly focused on Black Diamond. I'm curious as well what, sort of across SSC and Advent saw too. So what's your perspective on how things have changed?
I think a lot of the similar stuff like they're talking about, I think just a acceleration of, a larger portion of the population, and certainly, in private wealth, people are expecting to be able to do everything transactionally from home, right? I mean, even my grandma learned how to send money and not checks, right, through Venmo and things, But Amazon, a lot of people are going through. Obviously,
how did that go, Bjorn? Were you?
It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
okay.
Yeah. But I was thinking about it the other day. A lot of people are going through tax prep and their tax return right now, right? Can you imagine having to go deliver documents to your accountant right now, right? DocuSign, obviously, everybody's getting comfortable with that. But one thing I was thinking about, actually watching sort of Ron talk, and you can see his hands moving, right? And I think the one issue that I see with a lot of the Zoom is that there's a lot of communication that gets lost. People are not as memorable, right? So if I was to put my client hat on as an investor, I would want to be in front of my advisor, because I want that advisor to remember who I am, what I'm about, what I care about, so that, when he sees my name or sees my email or my message or something, he immediately goes, oh, that's Bjorn, and I know what's going on with them, right? He made an impression on me when we sat down. I know what he cares about. Maybe something happens in the market, or there's an opportunity that comes up. I want my advisor to think about me, right? I don't want to be just another Zoom call, right? I want there to be, and I think so much of that comes down to body language, really. And I think people make this association when you're with somebody face to face that they do not make on a Zoom call. But I think everything transactionally needs to be able to happen digitally and virtually. But there's some things that can't be substituted, I think. So.
Well, along those lines, my next question is, what do you guys think? Both just sort of what do your firms think, but also what are you hearing from advisors? Are they all anxious to see life return to in-person meetings, or, I guess with you, Ron, it's your advisors probably, with you working with advisors, it's going to be virtual anyway. But in terms of advisors and clients, what's your sense? They want it to go back to the way it used to be? Are they happy with the virtual environment, aside from not being able to really convey emotions and hand gestures and stuff that Bjorn's talking about, or they can't wait to get back?
I think that Bjorn's absolutely right. We learned this last year personally, that designing technology for trust, right? We oftentimes take for granted the intimacy of sharing a meal with somebody or a coffee or a cocktail or meeting in person because of the proximity and the body language, how we're wired as humans. Yes, I talk with my hands a lot. And that stuff does get lost. So I would say the advisors that we're talking to and the people in our team are really excited to have more of a hybrid approach, which seems to be what we're hearing from consumers in different research. I think the E&Y 2021 Global Wealth Management Report talks about this, right? That it's probably going to be a combination where the advisors I'm talking to and those on my team have seen the efficiency scale from being able to run a digital practice. Some of us spent some time in the southern states during the pandemic when our state was locked down and the weather wasn't great. And we realized we now can do this job from anywhere in the world because of the adoption of this technology. So I would say that most of the advisors I'm talking to want to see some clients in person and they want to have some of those, let's say, normal interactions again and relational type of events. But they also don't want it to go back to where it's 4 to 5 meetings a day running from one to the next, because you lose the ability to have this extension of your life and your work be wherever you're at the time. So I think it's going to be a hybrid approach is what I'm hearing.
Got it. Yaela, what about you?
Yeah, I would say one thing that I think the pandemic has shifted is we see statistically that when the return to work conversations have happened, it's the more mature, and I can put myself kind of in the beginning of that bucket, the more mature individuals in the workplace and wealth as well are enjoying working from home and want to do more of it. Right. So I don't think as many people want to be road warriors now that they've broken the habit and such. And especially so what you're seeing then is amongst advisors, you're also seeing you're seeing massive consolidation across the industry, but you're starting to see legacy planning within your organization. So what does it look like as you want to roll down? You want to spend more time at home. You want to be on the road less. You want to do that. Who are the next level? Who are the next wave of advisors you can bring in, right? Who can you mentor? Who can you cultivate and have your business kind of carry on? And I think the digital era, is very attuned to the new generations, but we're seeing kind of COVID as having helped kind of like crash those two worlds together. And now I think what we're seeing is that previous generation now understanding the value of those tools and that these emerging advisors need a different set of tool set. They're going to operate differently. That business is going to look different. And so amongst kind of the hybrid model that you have for people returning, you have a shift in the emerging and the tools that they're going to need and the conversations that are going to be in play.
That's interesting. Yeah, your first point especially, I hadn't thought about it that way, but that is interesting. It'd be great to see that across industries too, if we can all evolve a little more that way. Bjorn, what have you guys seen?
In terms of just efficiencies?
Well, what are you guys seeing advisors talking about pushing towards that? It's probably more in sort of anecdotal conversations you'd have, but do they want it to go back to more the way it was, or it's expedited their comfort, certainly both advisors and I think clients out of necessity with the virtual tools, but as far as what they want to do?
For the most part, I'm hearing hybrid. I'm hearing give options, different demographics, allow different types of clients to connect with you the way they want to connect with you. But I think the $1 million question that follows this conversation is, okay, let's assume I want to personalize, right? How am I going to do that with 150 clients? And I think the challenge before us from a technology provider perspective is, how can we, help the advisors not having to go chase down problems or opportunities within their client base, right? That's the thing, right? Who's lagging on their contribution rates, right? Who hasn't contributed to their IRA? Who could help by some, having some more income protection in the portfolio? Who's logging in every single day? They're probably nervous, RMDs, whatever it is. So I think that balance between personalization and efficiency is something that it's up to us as a technology community to make a lot better. It doesn't really, from what I've seen, it doesn't exist in a really good holistic way, right? We're working hard to make that better. But I think that's the piece that we got to figure out, because everybody wants both. And I think as platforms are evolving towards that, proactive BI type drill down information, targeting client segments to really make them feel special and those type of things. I think we're all going through that evolution. I think advisors are going to have to pick technologies that align with that path, right? Especially if you're setting it up from scratch. So that would be my take on that.
Okay. Well, next question is, advisors have increasing fears about fee compression, fears about profitability, but also the fear of, how am I going to show my value to my clients, and fears about the clients becoming more demanding. I mean, they're already a lot more demanding and have higher expectations when it comes to technology. How are your firms addressing what you're hearing from advisors in those scores? What feedback are you getting from them and also from end clients? Ron, you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it gets to a very fundamental question, which all of us, both on the tech side of the space and as advisors, or putting ourselves in advisors' shoes, have to ask, which is this: what is the value and role of an advisor in a world in which artificial intelligence, natural language processing, machine learning, like pick a few buzzwords, but what is the role and value of an advisor in a future where things can be done at speed and scale by technology that are currently being done by humans right now, right? And I think we as advisors have to get really clear on what it is that's exceptionally valuable of what we deliver to our clients. And we have to go all in on that, right? So, I mean, this is an interesting question, because I think the way that we can get better is to figure out where are the parts of our business processes and systems that we can automate, and that we can automate in a way that still is personal. I mean, this is a common theme that I think we're going to see everywhere, is what are the technology platforms and tools that I can use inside of my firm, inside of my practice, that make the client still feel very much connected to the firm, designed for trust, right? Have a high level of interactive, personalized communication. But at the same time, if I have 100 clients, 200 clients, 300 clients, et cetera, you can't spend all day just chasing around each one of those. So insights from it, but I think it starts with advisors getting really clear. Am I an investment manager? Am I a financial planner? Am I a multi-generational life coach, right? What is it that I do that's actually exceptionally valuable, and how do I go all in and deep on that? And then once that question's answered, then you push out to technology and say, how do we leverage and balance high touch, high technology type of world? Because it's not an either or. If you ignore the technology and what's coming at speed, right, you will be, I'm not even going to say a dinosaur. I think it's more zombie, right? You'll be alive and moving, but you're already a shell. Right. And we've seen this in other industries. Take Uber and taxis, take Netflix and traditional cable, right? I mean, the world is awash in places where technology has come in at speed and force and completely changed an entire channel. And I think we're at the beginning of that in the wealth management space. So.
All right. Yaela, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, Ron, just to build on what you said, but I completely understand, is how do you establish your brand, create that digital trust, digital empathy, and then communicate that, right? And reinforce that and create what we call sometimes brand entanglement, right? People can pick up and move to another advisor and things like that. And so and it's not just about, it's not just about that one person who managing the relationship, right? It's about the brand and the value that they're bringing. So how do you create that digitally? And it ties back a little bit to what I was saying initially when I think about what is the tools that an RIA really needs to think about, is that that digital empathy and what we call personas. Right. So you have advisors who operate differently, who consider themselves to be, investment advisors versus like financial planners. But you also have clients who think of themselves differently. So you have multi-generational wealth. If you look at the different types of dimensions, you have the wealth bracket, mass affluent, all the way up to ultra high net worth. What does that look like? How do they behave and interact with their wealth and their money and their advisors? Then you have kind of the digital savviness. You have age as a factor. And so being able to create different digital personas, which means you're empathetic to your client and you're actually connecting with who your client is. And that digital personalization, I think, is an important factor. So as there's consolidation, as there's competition, again, leading with kind of who you are, your authenticity in that regard, but then having the digital tools to back that up, but also thinking about how that extends to your clients and not just you. You don't treat your clients all the same when you take them out for lunch, for dinner, for a drink, for coffee. So why would you treat them all the same digitally?
Yeah, and I think that there's an interesting conversation here around good technology that is aligned with the value proposition of a firm actually can treat, not to disagree with you, Yaela, but I think it actually can treat the clients that might have been on the lower end of the revenue spectrum as if they're on the higher end of the revenue spectrum, because we can leverage technology to do it. And I think that's a massive overlooked opportunity by advisors right now, because we might still be in a world of thinking old school segmentation, as opposed to thinking like, who likes this type of communication channel, right? Now it becomes, well, all of these people, regardless of the size of their account, can get this really robust experience and actually have a higher value for what I'm bringing to them as the advisor or the firm. So I couldn't agree with this conversation more. I think it's going to be figuring out who you serve, whether you think about it in personas or maybe a more simplistic way, and then getting really clear about that, and then finding the tools that allow you to do it at scale with personalization and designed for trust, right? Clients still have to trust that you're actually a part of it, because if they all of a sudden realize that this thing's running completely without you, they start to get this question of, well, why don't I just go to a robo, right? Or something like this. So my mantra that I tell people on my team is we have to be thinking about designing technology and experiences that are client driven, but advisor centric. So we, the advisor, are still a part of the conversation. We're an intricate part of the journey, but I don't have to be the person that drives all the interaction, right? The client's not waiting on me to open an investment account. They're not waiting on me to answer a question about like, did I miss an RMD? Like, technology can do that and can allow the client to drive it at the pace they want, but keep the advisor in the co-pilot seat so we can help them navigate.
Bjorn, I'll give you a chance to respond, and then I have a follow-up question, so don't let me forget to ask that.
Yeah, the only thing that comes to mind additive to this is just in terms of value prop and service level and different types of offerings that advisors might become creative with, you know, and I might be a little bit biased on this because this is kind of what I want and what I think people I know want, but I think we're looking for collaborators, right? We're looking for somebody to brainstorm with, to validate or not validate my thoughts for my future. You know, so I think, you know, again, I would personally love to talk with an advisor and be on a whiteboard and like mind map out where we're going, right? Like, this is the strategy for my future and my family's future. And then you're going to have a bunch of implementation items and action items coming out of that, some that the advisor might do and some that the client might do, right? But being clear about who owns what, and then just basically go to work, right? But I think that type of engagement is a little bit different than just a full service, you know, 85 bips, let's go, right? So I think we'll see different types of tiers of services evolve for different types of clients, which I think is a good thing. And I think, I don't think that's necessarily going to mean fee compression. I think it's just going to mean you're going to have different people appreciate different things, right? I would be happy to pay for that kind of engagement versus an ongoing asset-based fee. So,
And
Well,
I just to
go ahead.
am I allowed to interject?
Yep, please.
Thanks, David. Keep me on time. I would add one thing to just what Bjorn said, which is the different levels of service for different clients, where it's just very interesting. What we see some of our clients struggle with is how to actually reach out either to the next generation or emerging wealth, right? What people kind of joke as the Henrys, right? The high earners, not rich yet, right? And so how do you have tools that speak to them and attract them? And I think the industry is missing the mark pretty significantly in what that looks like, and trying to take old think and apply it to a new paradigm. And I think it's only through really understanding these multiple dimensions at play and leveraging technology when you can, and not trying to be an or a this or this, which is like the traditional model, but rather kind of this blended and these hybrid models of tools that both of my colleagues here are talking about. I think is the only way that they're really going to get there, because it's a massively underserved market and everyone's trying to figure out how to find those nuggets, right? And how to grow them. But I have yet to see anyone who's really who's really paving the way in that.
No, I absolutely agree. And I mean, myself, that's part of why I left to go work for Wealthfront for 2 years. I really felt like the industry itself couldn't get down to help the mass affluent, especially where the need is greatest. Along those lines, where do you guys fall on? To me, it seems clear that sort of this idea of having a robo-advisor piece of technology within your offerings to advisors, no one's shared their AUM for those platforms, those that rolled it out, whether we're talking about big banks or whether we're talking about some of the big, roll up RIAs or even some of the custodians. They don't want to share their AUM. It leads me to believe they haven't grown it at all since rollout or significant enough to talk about. Where do you guys fall? And I suspect it's a hybrid approach you guys want to take, but what are you thinking in terms of the technology rolled out for the next generation that you at your firms are thinking about?
I have a lot of views on this one, but I can wait and let someone else go first.
All right. Well, Ron, I am curious. I don't think you and I have ever talked about this aspect of things. Where do you fall? And I know it may be that may be out on the roadmap for you, but what are your thoughts there?
So I think that the robo platforms are now literally, I was going to say a dime a dozen, but maybe a fraction of a penny per thousand. I have a running list right now that we provide people with that ask, like, here's all the platforms where you can go get an automated ETF investment stack for free, right? I think what needs to happen in this space is the clients are demanding and really crying out for more personalization when it comes to both planning on the investment side and the financial planning side. That's at least what we're seeing. And so I think there's a lot of space here to take some of the best things that happened from the robo advising space. Say like Wealthfront's a great example. I follow them really closely and say, how do I take all of the things they did well around speed, cost structure, client immediacy and client driven aspect, but how do I actually build a custom investment portfolio for them using technology, right? And how do I potentially get to where that could have some automation to it, so that as we're leading somebody through financial planning or through conversations, to Bjorn's point, I would love it if every one of my clients wanted to have a mind mapping session for their life and then build a strategy off of it. And when you get to have that kind of experience with, especially the Henrys, or I call them the next gen wealth creators, they love it, right? That's what they're willing to pay for. That's an experience differentiator. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to figure out as advisors and as tech companies how we take the best things from the best robo advisors, not from all of them, because again, there's like fractions of pennies of them for the thousands out there. But the best and the leading ones in the space have figured out how to do some things really well. I think we need to borrow from them, right? But then add the element of being able to coach people, being able to have empathy, being able to lead people through strategic planning type of conversations. That's that mix of kind of robo meets, life coach advisory role that I think is going to be the winning solution. And I don't know that there's really good technology out there yet that does this really well at scale. So
you can call me. We do it.
Great.
We do it for some of the largest banks here in the United States, and also wealth managers and players. And it's all kind of fully branded, so it's not a powered by, right? It's not an out of the box solution. So I think, to your point, Ron, there's a dime a dozen out of the box solutions, take as is. But if you actually want to like create your own, right? Create your own vision, create your own model, create your own hybrid, and what that blend looks like, there's fewer options. And so what we've seen be successful is when you think about it as part of the tapestry of what you're offering, and not an out of the box kind of like plug-in or replacement, right? It's no longer, it's not going to eat your business, right? It's not a replacement. It's an addition. And so what we're seeing is those different journeys. You do have, right, this emerging or this mass affluent who do want to be involved to a certain extent. Not everyone, but they do. They have Robinhood accounts or whatever they have on the side, but they want to dabble. Why not have that on your platform? Why not have kind of their own, whether they want to choose a robo, whether they want to choose a self-directed, right? A suggested model, an allocation model, and then self-directed instruments or securities within them, with overlays and tools. Or they just want to go in there and they just want to trade and they want to play day trader, with a pool of capital. But deciding how those specific pieces can fit into your overall offering, knowing that they're just part of the fabric of like where we're going as an industry, I think is an important piece that people are sometimes neglecting, because they think, again, it's it's me or the robo, and it's not. It's what does that look like as we define our space and as we define the value we're bringing. And so I see some of the programs that we've helped build and take to market actually very successful, surprisingly successful for some of these organizations. So much so that sometimes there's internal grumbling. Well, we don't like how people are doing this automated stuff. What's going on here? But if not you, like if they're not doing it with you, they're going to be doing it with someone else. If that's where they're compelled to go.
We'll get some of them to talk to us about the success of those.
Okay. All right.
I
Well,
would never get it. Some of the big banks that have rolled these out, they make a big to do when they roll it out and then call them back 6 months. Oh, well, we're not going to disclose that. Oh, we can't really say. So it's been interesting. And to me, with especially the top 10 banks, they have a built out client base, customer base in the millions. It just seems to me, hook them when they're young and keep them your whole life. It makes so much sense. Yet they're leaving it wide open for the internet channel and a lot of the startups that are coming
and some
in.
of those programs have been very successful for that very reason. I think what the challenge has been with what we all thought is like, robo is coming, robo. Remember when that word was like really like
Oh, yeah.
popular, and then it was dirty, and then it was bad. And it was because people thought it was like, it's going to eat my business. But the truth was, the reason those standalone robo experiences didn't do well is because the cost of customer acquisition is way too high.
Very high, yep.
Right?
Mhm.
It's
Well,
impossible to make money in that traditional model versus
Right.
when you already have a beautiful base and then you're looking to kind of extend it and let it grow organically and start to add offerings to the next generation, right? To wealth. I know a lot of wealth advisors who want to be offering products and services to friends and family in their network that don't necessarily meet their thresholds, but still feel like they have value to add. And why can't they help them with their investment advisory? And so those are different ways to be able to offer that.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I would take
I feel like-
a little. Oh, go ahead, Bjorn. Go ahead.
Good quick point. I think people are still sort of sometimes trying to isolate parts of the financial life and think that people can make smart decisions on separate issues, right? I think the hardest thing still that we're tackling is having a complete picture of everything that's going on, right? Recently, an advisor told me a story of he's noticing some weird cash flows in a client's portfolio. Turns out the client decided to pay off their mortgage, and it was at like 2.5% or something like that without talking to the advisor, right? And he's like pulling his hair out. They're trying to figure out why the client did this, right? But he thinks he's doing a great job with their investments and everything, but he's not thinking about debt. And so I think trying to have a robo that handles a slice of things, but you have so many moving parts to the financial life, and if they're not connected in the same platform, you're not going to make sound decisions, right? And I think that's the piece that it really has got to be holistic, because everything is connected one way or another, right? If not through taxes, right, or something at the end of the day. So that was my only point on that.
Got it. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, no, I was just going to jump in and say that I think there's a distinction that has to be made between the personalization of a client's investment portfolio based on their financial plan versus the customization of a more automated investing platform at the advisor level. And so I think that, most of the robo platforms and the automated investment platforms that I still see out there, and Yaela, I'll definitely check yours out, have a very similar approach, which is they're actually still more of a glide path or a target date fund type of structure where there's a few data points and there's a risk assessment that's plugged in. But at the end of the day, the actual math behind both of those drives back to the exact same spot. So if an advisor is thinking that they're going to offer an automated investment solution and charge 50 basis points for it, the client is not going to get a better outcome with that platform than if they just go to Wealthfront or Betterment at 25 bips, because the end game, how the math is still built into those automated platforms, is here's my age, here's my retirement date, or here's my age, and here's when I want the money, for the most part. Right. So what I think is missing still yet isn't, to Bjorn's point, like a real-time system that automatically adjusts a client's portfolio based on their financial plan and cash flows. I think that is a wide open space yet. And there probably are technology platforms doing it. I'm not aware of every one of them. But as a client adds money to their 401k or buys a piece of real estate and their financial plan's updated in real time, they might need to change their investment structure now, right? And not have that be something that requires the advisor to be looking at, 1,000 different accounts across 150 different households, which is an impossible task. So that's what I meant by like the deep personalization of an investment portfolio for a client.
All right. We just have a few minutes left, and we've got I want to leave just a few moments for Q&A, and we've got a question that's come in. What do you find is the toughest piece of your builds with these platforms? And I'll let whoever wants to jump in on that take the first stab.
I'll take a quick stab because mine's a really fast answer. It's terrible data files from the custodians.
Oh,
Wall Street runs on T+2 settlement dates because the technology is 40 years old, and it's not any one thing that any one of us can fix, but that's our toughest piece, is just dealing with the existing data structures at large custodians. It's just a challenge.
I was going down this similar road there, just data uniformity, if you will, right? And I just said, get an accurate, up-to-date picture at all times across all these different asset classes and liability classes, So I think data reliability takes up a lot of investment, a lot of time for people like us.
I would definitely say that we do see that with clients, right? That data piece is right, garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. Right. We all know that in all areas of our life. We talk about that with our food, right? As well, but it's all the same with data. So what we've seen as ways of overcoming that is actually what you need is, and this is why I can't help but be excited about it, right? Because it's one of our products, but the white platform is exciting to me because for the first time you get institutional grade software and platforms, which is beautiful about the digital age. You can now bring that to market and lower cost or more price sensitive clients, RIAs of different levels can have access to tools that they couldn't before that can help solve that. For example, we have a digital warehouse that wraps every single kind of one of our apps and takes in every data feed and helps solve some of those data problems, right? Some of the data normalization, the data discrepancies, data timing issues. Without that, our clients are literally like hamstrung. They can't do anything because it's like Back to the Future. You can't plug that car in, like you can't get it. It won't reach. And so you need this infrastructure that is purpose built, that is for our industry, that can help solve those problems. And so it's not the first time, but now more than ever, there's the availability of those tools, with cloud, with multi-tenant, with scale that can be delivered to more people solving those problems than traditionally where it was, you had to be one of the big banks with deep pockets and you had to spend 5 years on the project. And you got that advantage, and that's just not the case anymore.
Well, I used to think maybe data standards was going to be the answer to this, but I'm thinking now it's going to be something along the lines of machine learning that just goes in and fixes everything with the dirty streams, whether it's account aggregation, which I think everybody's got a premium product that will bring in reconciled data now. But yeah, and the custodians, their files are, a lot of it's that they don't call things the same name across the different custodians, correct? Yeah,
correct.
All right, well, we're down to about 3 minutes now. I want to give each of you a chance to maybe talk about what's on the roadmap. So a minute each on what you want to talk about quickly on the roadmap for your firms and your platforms.
Yeah, I'll go real quick. I think something that gets ignored or maybe isn't the fun thing to talk about is on the compliance end of it. So one of the things that's on our technology roadmap is bringing natural language processing and machine learning into the compliance end, specifically around communications between advisors and clients. So phone calls, video chats, text messages, all being integrated in real time into our platform, and then having using natural language processing to be searching for that both for keywords and for other compliance features. I think the ability to scale to a larger network and not have to add a compliance officer for every 50 advisors or something is not a sexy aspect of the work that's coming, but definitely a force multiplier.
Got it. Bjorn, what about you?
I think since there's too much to cover in 1 minute, but since we're talking about this complete financial life, right? I mean, we're really focused on making it easier to create a complete balance sheet for clients, right? So, we're obviously acquired Innovest. They have a trust platform. We're working on that. We've got an insurance marketplace. SS&C has their fund admin business. So we're automating alternative feeds into Black Diamond. We're looking at how to get things like stock options, real estate. So we're really kind of just expanding our data model so we can house everything that relates to the client's financial life in one place.
Got it. Yaela, we'll let you wrap things up here.
Sure. I would say it's like you said, there's a lot going on, but something I'm particularly excited about is what we call the financial supermarket, right? And so what is that to actually bring all the financial instruments, client created models, advisor created models specific for advisors, right? Ones that you're tapped into from kind of the manufacturers and whatnot. So bringing that all into one place kind of for a central repository, a central place, the financial product kind of central hub, bringing that in. And then not only that, but being able to transact with ease. So now the advisors have tools that feel a little robo-ish too, right? We call it a little bit bowling with bumpers. So what is it like to have end-to-end, like beautifully designed intuitive workflows for advisors to decide how much customization and personalization they want for clients? And then to be able to pick from the inventory, pick from the different things that are available to them, or go off kind of piece if they want to, and then have that kind of go through a direct to processing, to your home office, to your trade system, whatever, for end to end. And so that's something we're exceptionally excited about and in the midst of rolling out.
All right. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a great conversation, and I've thought about 30 other questions to ask you guys, so we'll have to do it again. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Davis.
Thank you.